you have to do is have everyone be an owner, and now suddenly, any gain in automation is a gain for everyone. If you grow just one thing, it may not grow as well as if it grows with another thing. A good example of that is called the Three Sisters method.
There is definitely like part of the labor movement that you do feel that way.
$100 million that they gave to Joe Rogan that they will kind of be out of it. Huge contract. Is that a bigger number, or is 2 billion a bigger number?
I don't know,
It's a
Zach.
tough one. I
It's
know,
really hard
and
to
maybe
do this.
comparing numbers is not Jenny's thing. Gotta go kill a Jenny.
I still don't think you should kill her. I don't think it's a good idea.
It's a ghost, dude. Hello and welcome back, everybody, to Bread Theory. I'm your host, Zach, and joining me, as per usual on Tuesdays, is Dan Platt of the Albany Greens. How you doing tonight, Dan?
Doing great. Feeling fine. Outside of the usual existential dread.
Yeah, that kind of
Uh,
never goes away, huh?
my greatest fear, besides climate catastrophe stuff, which is always sort of in the background. There's always little blips here. Like I work for the university system in New York, and they do actually have that net zero goals and with 80% by 2050, and I think we could be on track to that, considering they were saying, like, since starting with a 1990 benchmark, that we were like a third the way there. But anyway, but they need
Well,
extreme,
that's
like
exciting.
but mentioned by the chancellor, extreme amounts of capital investment is needed, because it's like, of course we'll save in the long run, but we need upfront capital, and that needs to come from the Fed pretty much.
Yeah.
So we need some kind of big green building and reconstruction fund, and it needs to have $1 trillion
Are you
involved.
saying like a green sort of a deal? Maybe a green new
The
deal?
Green New Deal,
Oh, how
yeah,
about
that would be
that?
part of the Green New Deal, and that's how it would be disseminated to institutions that want to go full net zero, and they have the planning and the expertise, and NYSERDA, which is a New York, it's like our green infrastructure agency. They basically are the disseminator of all sustainability grants, what have you, and so there's a lot of people that are not like, especially when you're not in certain industries, or sectors, the downstream sectors, I guess you could say. But they
Mm-hmm.
are thinking about the stream of resources and where things come from. So it's because it's academia, so people are somewhat smart, even if they're not like anti-capitalist.
Sure. Yeah.
uh, oh yeah. So my greatest fear is that, also looking at the other socialists around me as well, that after we fight hard and we work our asses off, in 20 or 30 years, we will accomplish what our parents wanted to in 1980,
I
as
mean,
far as like what their goals were.
yeah, if is doing a lot of work in that statement, but yeah,
Of course.
yeah.
Am I working my ass off? I feel like I'm not. But
Really,
there's always
I
that.
feel like you're working a lot more than most. I would say.
I probably am. And
Yeah.
that's sort of where I need to kind of mentally situate myself. Otherwise, I'm playing some kind of mental game where the child is always feeling helpless. Um, well, I had another job interview today,
Cool.
and it would be a perfect building wise. It would be perfect, but the unit was kind of led by someone who could be kind of a bitch, boss bitch,
Mm-hmm.
um, or just someone who's like a hardliner. But I think it's more that this unit is overworked, so the supervisor there is under a lot of stress. So they didn't really like. They seemed rushed. Like she answered all the questions. She would ask all the questions. There were two other people there besides their notes. They didn't interact with me. But one of them is the person who would train me. So I kind of wish she would be explaining what we'd be doing. And even when I asked a question to all three of them, then the leader answered for me, or answered so that there would be once. And you'd think that would be to save time, but they seem to keep giving me time to ask more questions. And like we still have 10 minutes, and obviously I'm not going to ask more than two. I'm going to ask, how do you do things in the office? What do you like about your office? You know, Um, but this is the second time. The last one I did and this one, they've asked me, how did you prepare for this interview? Which I've not been asked before. And if I did, I guess I forgot.
That
But
is a different one, yeah. I don't think I've heard that one
it's
before.
not, it's a normal kind of question, of course, but it's something that
Normal
I
kind of,
don't,
yeah.
hasn't come up a lot before.
Right, sure.
And I wonder why. Because it's such a short, like it's not gonna. I feel like it doesn't like. You could read into it like, oh, it tells you a lot about a person if they prepare for this interview.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it would tell you enough. You
Sure.
know, especially when the job is managing queues and working them down, which is why I would like to work here. I would have no free time there, but that's okay because I would only have a few minute commute. Unlike going up and down the hill that I do every day.
For sure.
But I get to read, which at the moment, I don't know if I've talked about it yet, but I'm reading The Games People Play, which is from 1962. So it's a extremely outdated psychology book, sort of pop psychology, but I believe it popularized using games in a psychological context. So whenever anyone says, stop playing games, I'm pretty sure that comes from this.
Ah, yeah. That's the
Because what are games are these, they're not, and he makes it clear, though he probably just should say it more, that these are unconscious games. They're not always like, there's an ulterior motive, but it's a psychological motive. It's not a conscious decision to do these things. They're patterns of behavior picked up when you're a kid. And they're just like, this is how I interact with people. I put people in double binds, and then I get to say, haha, I got you, and then I'm vindicated, and I don't have to take the blame for anything. I don't have to feel like, and it gets an extreme thing. And it shows its age when homosexuality is mentioned, but he writes that, well, the negative effects come from making homosexuality a game, meaning there are all these negative toxic patterns that develop when you're being a homosexual. Otherwise, he doesn't say it too much more. But it's a very short book, so there are tons of things where he could expound upon. Like, I think it should have been way more detail. There's generally lots of critiques, but when I look for where this went, like, is there any evolution of transactional theory, which is what it's called? Did this evolve into anything? Was it folded into any other practice? And I'm not seeing a lot. There's also a sense that maybe this entire theory was dropped, but when I type in, I just do a search of critique or, and nothing came up. It's just a lot of explainers for this book, which apparently is still republished. Because it is really accessible, but you can at least be conscious of some of the games. Like, here's a simple one, which is the yes but game, where you ask. It can go both ways, but it's usually you ask people for advice, and then you reject any suggestions they give, so long as they're giving them in a kind of parental way. But on its first surface, it's two adults discussing a problem. But psychologically, it's a child acting like they're incapable, but they win when the people asked get exasperated, like, but that won't work, and we kind of do this, like, well, we can't do this kind of organizing because that doesn't work, and we can't join the Democratic Party and be entrist because that doesn't work. Always a yes but. And then when the interlocutor gives up, well, they show that they're the actual incompetent ones. Yeah. It's not me. So a lot of games are like that. A lot of them are gendered, particularly because he's a psychiatrist and he's dealing with a lot of put upon housewives, because this is kind of almost getting to woman's lib. This is 1962.
Gotcha.
Frigid woman. Oh yeah, and it says, like, well, if a male could do these, but it's usually classified as a criminal activity to do something like the flirting, empty flirting, and then the higher level is, well, the trope of we had sex, but then immediately after I accuse you of sexual assault.
Oh, jeez. Okay.
Um, so that I remain pure. I can enjoy sex, but then I have to still be pure psychologically
So you
because of
tear
my
down
training.
the other person, make them the disgusting one. Gotcha.
Right. And the version of this with the wife and husband was, oh yeah, I guess it's still frigid wife or frigid woman, which is, um, it could be the couple are both sexually repulsed, like they're both afraid of sex. So this is if the husband goes along with it, where the woman, the wife or the partner, I'll just say partners, will be risque in the house. And if the other partner advances because they see it as an invitation, or it's like, oh, they're almost inviting me, but then they're instantly rejected, like, oh, of course, you're disgusting, you're a beast. How dare you think I'm being sexual of you? Okay.
I see.
So that's just my book report. I always give. We brought up first. I wanted to rage at Vosh and any kind of leftist who's basically blue MAGA.
Has it really sunk that far, huh?
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm quoting President Sunday and referencing him.
Sure.
He makes some pretty good, because being an online grifter lefty himself, in a way, he's good at talking about other, on the online left as well.
Sure.
That, especially when they're business first and they're just chasing what's popular. And we may notice that as soon as Trump was out of office, suddenly their radicalism nosedived. And they just start talking about like a normal imperialist progressive, a normal centrist Democrat in a way, who happens to talk of like, well, of course I'm still a socialist, and I'm still a market for single, not Medicare for all, the Bernie Crat agenda. But the how and why suddenly becomes very centrist. And so they become blue MAGA because they're actually nationalists, and you have to play ball and not just even compromise, just become the centrists and the liberals.
Just absorb into the Democratic Party, basically.
Yeah. Pointing out, look, all the good people there, they're all like, we can't just paint them all as enemies, and yeah, I don't want to do that. But it's the institution that's the enemy, and it's just there's sort of I know we gotta draw a line, otherwise I'll just feel like shit.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
I do. And I also see, like, on a local level, how ineffective it is, because essentially what you have is a bunch of activists on the ground, and they see their role as simply pushing on those who are currently in office, the Democrats in office,
right,
and never holding, like, they talk like that's their power, because like that's all they can do, or that's all they've ever done. And I'm just talking that way because one of our longtime activists just passed, and I went to her vigil, and the vigil had that kind of rhetoric.
Sure.
Where it's kind of half black separatist, but half, progressive, but also has that radical elements from the 60s and 70s, because they were really radical at that time, but they sort of just like, we're going to be working with the system, sort of building our own institutions via nonprofit sector, and they have sort of infrastructure, but like for what? It doesn't seem to prevent any of the degradation of the hood. Though in some ways it fixes parts of it up, but it can only dribble. But anyway,
it's not changing the underlying material conditions, so
yeah,
at best it's shifting all the worst elements just to the suburbs or to another part of the city, or
I'm also pontificating in a way. And I was a little disappointed in that, like, the Socialist Party chapter I'm a member of, we're doing another chili fundraiser, and in brainstorming, the thing that came up, and I think that the PSL chapter is doing a fundraiser too at our Union Hall in Troy, which is a bar. but it's a bar that's been bought by like the DSA chapter, and it kind of caused quite a lot of tension and a bit of splitting too. Because you basically had people who didn't want a bar, just, um, but it's to raise money for a foundation that ships medicine to Cuba because of the embargo, which is a good cause.
Yeah, for sure.
But then, and they do act. Everyone in these orgs are acting to build social power, right, in their own ways. But I'm like, couldn't we do as charity to some socialism building project? Like, really, I really kind of feel like we should be putting everything we do into our local infrastructure. And it's a sort of, I don't know. I'm a little slightly disappointed. It's like it's not the wrong thing to do, but it's a little frustrating when we really should be saving up like, you know, 100 grand, 200 grand, so we can do more than just like have a bar and call at a union hall. But I guess no. I mean, that's a positive thing to have such a space. We should be buying, you know, 10 of those. You know, we don't have one in Albany. There was one in Troy. Troy has a pretty active DSA, and it's kind of where all the DSA energy is.
Sure.
I mean, there's a good amount of it in Albany. I'm friends with them. I guess I'll be a member of them eventually. I just have really mixed feelings about it because of the national org and the general tone of things, where a lot of them are like kind of in arrested development. Some of them, at least that's just a perception from people who rant.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like in the long term, their main function is just to sheepdog progressives into the Democratic Party and keep them from organizing outside of that space. So
yeah, I mean, a certain amount were, and a certain amount were disappointed and are simply kind of then stuck in that middle ground between not really caring that deeply about electoral power. Like, they'll be registered Dems so they can have some effect in primaries when they occur, because if a socialist is going to, or someone from the org is going to run, it's going to be as a Dem, so that they can interact with the electoral system, because it's so freaking difficult otherwise. Like, I suggested I run for council next year, and the realism is, I always, well, at least from my, you know, comrade, I get a realism pushback of, well, we need to be able to run a race that's going to be effective and worth our time, because getting on the ballot will take more effort, and running independent. And if we're going to put effort somewhere, it needs to be in a winnable race with a candidate that's viable or experienced, right? We need to find an activist who will do this and run their ward. We have been talking like this for cycle after cycle after cycle. Even when we had a ballot line, activists were not lining up. There was sometimes some possibility of one who was like maybe thinking about running for mayor, and he was like part of the South End Cooperative, but he got cold feet or changed his mind. You know, it's just like they're not committed. So it's a little frustrating hearing that again. That's like we'll recruit, or we have to find an activist to step up and be an independent candidate and in a ward that's winnable. But my thinking from other Green parties, even in the UK, which is also for first past the post, you know, they've won in council races if they just lit drop enough. It's like anywhere's winnable if you do the groundwork.
Do the work, yeah.
And yeah, it's a lot of work, but that's the thing. We got to convince people and talk to ourselves into doing all of that work.
That it's worth it, yeah.
And not burn out after a month or so.
Yeah.
But that comes from having it shared, you know, and just being the manager of it.
Yeah.
Because yeah, running for council like alone, I mean, I guess regardless of whether or not I have my comrades, you know, Peter's support, if I can get the commitment of like 4 people I know, then I'll be cool going forward with this. But you know, maybe I should spend my time not pursuing any of that, and actually trying to start that real estate co-op and recruiting people for that and getting money, and because I think a lot more socialists are more into that than running helping one of us run for office. And I guess maybe there's also that anxiety I have. It's like, well, but do they think I'm good enough to run? You know, I mean, I got a little confirmation of that when I ran for library board, and people are not like, oh, Dan, why are you doing that? I think my mother kind of stopped saying that. I mean, she said that when I ran for mayor, which, yeah, didn't make sense. But she didn't this time.
Sure. All right. Well, I think it's probably about time to get over to the video. Do you want to set this up any more than you already have, or you'll just kind
of? It's just Vosh being a fucking dumbass. He doesn't read, he doesn't know anything, and we're gonna debunk the debunker because he's watching. So this is at DNC. There are lots of marches. We covered that last time.
Yeah.
I'm going to reverse my stance and be positive about all of that. It was a lot of people marching and protesting, and it was a usual kind of amount of activism, and it's not a waste of time, especially if you meet other people and you communicate. And Trots were there, and a lot of other things. You know, everyone was there, and that included a press conference for the ceasefire and ending the genocide, ending apartheid.
All right.
And Vosh is covering that, particularly Stein, and he just shows how fucking ignorant he is of everything, for the sake of being Blue MAGA, and eventually, like, he believes that someday he'll be invited and be an MSNBC contributor. Like, that's essentially what he's working towards, to be important enough as to be important enough as a commentator and online personality, like Hassan. Hassan was invited on Piers Morgan, right? And twice.
Yeah,
you know,
a few
and
times
stuff like that. And so Vosh kind of wants to be that big and believes that, but anytime he's not on stream, he's an awkward mess. He just cannot operate outside of his little fucking room. You know, he just shows his ass every time, because when he's just him and his fucking computers, you know, he's the maestro of rhetoric or whatever, and trolling and being sarcastic. It's just like, ugh. I can't. I barely took him seriously when I did watch him more regularly, and again, I listen or watch for fun. But it gets tiring real fast. You know, even when it's debates and arguing, I like kind of set
it's
the
very
book. It's all games.
Yeah.
It's all games and
rhetorical games. Yes.
Yeah, rhetorical, and it's like, it's not important. It's entertainment, of course, but
sure, it can serve a function.
If it's entertainment, then don't act like you're talking. You know, you're talking. Make it an act. Make it a truly, like, parody act. Even if the Kamala campaign is literally Veep. And I'm not the first to make this joke,
right?
But it was the first thing that clicked in my head as well. It's like, this is fucking Veep. It's the plot of Veep. The second half of it, anyway, I guess. Which, if you didn't know,
I don't.
The plot of Veep is a senator who loses in the primary, but is her consolation prize is being the vice president, which is a jackass position. And but then the president has to step away because his wife has a nervous breakdown or some illness that is undefined. So she is president for, like, she's sworn in as president for basically a year, and then is running for president and loses, and then a season is her, like, that cycle where she's not in office, but then decides to run for president again and then wins. But it's that first time around where she's basically becomes president just because she was actually the vice president for a reason. Yeah. First woman president.
First woman president. All right.
Making history.
Take it away, Vosh. Let's see.
Oh yeah, speaking of that kind of internet leftist, though I don't think Jill Stein is a leftist. Jill Stein, Green Party presidential candidate for the 2020
Not a leftist?
speaking
Okay.
at today's abandoned
Off to a
Biden
good
press
start.
conference in Chicago. talk of? Did we not already abandon
Point
Biden?
one.
I am so grateful to everyone here.
It's about abandoning the Dems, dumbass. You know, not just abandon Biden, right? It's about abandoning the Democrats.
For sure, yeah.
I'm so grateful to the press who's come out to cover this event. I'm especially grateful to abandon Biden, now abandon Harris, for your incredible courage, for your vision, for your unstoppable determination here to stand up and lead the way forward.
Green Party is literally an anti-democratic party organization. That's their main priority. They have a bunch of Russian connections too. I know. We go over every
What's
time. We're not the Green Party
anti-democratic?
here. They exist only to pull votes from the
Democratic
Democrats, just
Party,
like the,
which is sort of true, but it's also completely false at the same time.
I mean, it's true in the way that, like,
It's true in that we're anti-duopoly, which includes the Democratic
sure,
Party.
but
But
also,
if you completely think in binaries, like Bosch is apparently doing, pretending to, because who knows what he really believes.
but I mean, like, every election, every presidential cycle, the Democrats actively suppress Green Party getting on the ballot everywhere. So
Yeah, they're anti-us.
they're anti-Green
So-
Party.
So of course
So,
we're anti-democratic.
Okay, yeah. What's the point?
But he considers that to be like
Oh, it can't be that. It can't be anti.
Democrats are the good
Democratic
guys.
Party. Yeah.
Democrats are the lesser evil. So by fighting them, we're fighting the lesser evil, and thus we're fighting for evil. I mean, it's the basic anti-third party, rhetoric.
Yeah.
Like it's so baseline, it's so basic. So
Sure.
here's the real insult to Bosch. He's basic.
Oh.
He uses the most basic, repeated, cliche talking points from 8 years ago, 10 years, 12 years
20
ago,
years ago, yeah.
20, 30, 40 years ago. It's all the same bullshit. And the fact that he repeats the Russiagate fucking bullshit is what really makes me mad.
Russiagate. Oh my god.
That it's like that hasn't been dropped by Blue MAGA. And I know it hasn't, but being reminded that they haven't dropped it after 8 years is kind of disgusting. And to say that, and it's like Jill Stein and the Green Party are inseparable. You sort of kind of let's watch, and
Sure,
it's like,
sure.
he refers to Howie, which is like, you never talk to him, you never recognize his existence
Right. Yeah. Now you got something to say.
during the campaign, which just,
Then
yeah.
it's-
And this is the only time he recognizes the Greens in this whole year, but
She's a completely unprincipled grifter. She doesn't give a shit about any outcome. She doesn't care about helping people in Gaza. She's only ever cared about prolonging a career where every 4 years she gets to grift donations off people and, I don't know, book deals and so on.
Forward. Not only to stop genocide, but also to
the debunk there is that what he's just listing things that may apply to other, grifty lefters or progressives.
Oh yeah.
But Stein has no book deal. There's no grift. There's no profit here.
Right.
The fundraising goes to ballot access.
Well, I mean,
And then he'll mention how we don't have enough ballot access.
Right. I mean, this round, she only reluctantly took up the party's top position. She made way for Cornel West to become.
Yeah.
The
His
nominee.
last video on this topic was 8 months ago, and it was basically the thumbnail was West and Jill,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, don't vote third party. It's just, and I did watch it 8 years ago. If I recall the content, it was just it was this, but applying to anybody. It doesn't matter who, or he's calling Jill a grifter, but he would call Cornel West a grifter. He would call
Of
any
course.
activist.
Anyone who's not
actually-
going to just support the Democrats.
Any activist who's left enough to be anti-imperialist,
Right.
essentially. And yeah, maybe that's a critique that the Green Party, and yeah, he points this out of our campaign is against the Democrats. What do we stand for?
Stand for plenty, man.
Fuck you. You don't give a shit what we stand for. We have a full platform. But yes, the campaign rhetoric is very much in line with the tone and the desires of, there's a movement against genocide, and that means, and the energy for that we're trying to tap into, if we're going to talk in terms of exploitation. But we want to earn the support of those who are incensed and done with the Democrats because of the genocide.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So the campaign rhetoric is very much geared towards that. The campaign, the stops she makes, the talks, and the stump speech. She's just going to Palestine rallies, because that's where the energy is. We don't have to organize campaign rallies. She can just go to anti-genocide rallies, and that's our audience. There are Greens there. There's going to be Green adjacent people or possible, potential Greens.
Sure.
That's our strategy at the moment. And yeah, I guess it's sort of short term, but it's the same way that if there were more Greens at Occupy encampments, the Greens could have grown at Occupy. But I guess there was no presence that I saw.
Oh, that's unfortunate.
Sadly.
Yeah.
I mean, not an organized presence, I suppose, is what's needed, but yeah, that is something to point out. They were really, I don't know what the Greens leadership. I mean, the aughts were an odd time because the aughts were both a really good time for the Greens, but then right after that, like with 2008, like the Obama years were really bad for the Greens. So things like dropped off, and they haven't really picked up. They pick up in little bits because of the Bernie and and this will lead to some upticks, but we just cannot currently sustain some growth like we did in the 90s and aughts.
Right. Yeah.
And I think the aughts, but again, it's like we get some growth when the right's in power, because everyone's kind of sees how feckless the Dems are.
Right. Looking for an alternative.
In all the ways.
Sure.
Which is sort of weird, because I feel like people should go Green more when the Dems are in power, because they don't pass anything.
Yeah.
Or they don't, or rather doing just enough to placate, which of course is the cynical side of me, which is like, pessimistic. I don't want to believe that, though. I want to believe people are smart. But,
it's just about like
they're not going to be, not on their own, I suppose. They need that outreach.
They need to have that existential threat. Yeah. If they feel comfortable, no matter what's actually happening in the world, I think they just don't have a good reason to put more mental energy into it when they could be at brunch instead. So
genocide.
It's
not happening to me because I'm Jewish in America.
Right.
Something like that.
Yep. All right, let's move on.
Highest officers of the land to hold the White House and its occupants accountable for genocide. Because without that, there is no democracy. So abandon Biden, abandon Harris. Thank you so much for what you're doing, not just for the Arab American community, not just for the Palestinian community.
This is a very serious strategy for helping Palestinian people. Don't vote for the better of the two options, so the worse option, who calls people Palestinian as a slur, gets in office, No effort whatsoever to, pull Trump voters away from Trump by talking about how he's America last, or how, they're not fulfilling their sort of, worker interests, or how they're voting against their own interests, or whatever. None of that. 100% always anti-Democrat aligned, constantly. No attempt at actually carving out some kind of disciplined, sect of the independent crowd.
But they're all Americans.
The independent crowd.
How is Vosh doing anything different than what he just said, though? He's always anti-green, always anti-third party, always anti-anything that's not Democrat. So
exactly. He thinks the DNC is good. He thinks it's good now. He's blue MAGA. He liked the DNC. He thinks that their messaging there was. He's referring to what the DNC messaging was, because they had union leaders there and whatnot, right? Which they always do.
Sure.
Even though they're never passing card check and they're never the STAR Act and whatever. But some Democrats will take up as sponsors, right? So they keep it alive. That hope, right? But it's a lie. It's a game.
I mean,
and his game is lesser evilism 101, and it's what he does
Sure.
every cycle. And of course, he's not a leader, Mr. Troll form boy. So he's
See,
not really a thought leader. I'm just using him as an example of like the blue MAGA,
sure.
and so it's just sort of odd or laughable. The joke here is that you have the mainstay Democratic operatives who are nationalists, blue MAGA. That's what I'm referring to, and he is following that, and his audience are just Democrats, or he's following a trend, and the trend is the joy of the Harris campaign.
That is already
Or
getting to be
joy.
an insipid slogan, just the party of joy.
I
Contrast it to the policies of just allowing genocide and stuff like that. Like, that's the joy?
Yeah. I've been
I don't know.
well, the joy is parental leave. You get 2 weeks of parental leave, eventually.
Eventually, maybe. Although,
Well, I
maybe
recall,
not.
years ago that there were commentators who were talking about like, oh, we need a politics that is about happiness and
Sure.
getting people happy again.
And
what
I would
makes
agree
people
with that.
happy. And I guess, yeah, not being in debt and
Yeah.
being proletarian.
Having more control over your life, more
Um,
stability, less fear of
Ashley Frawley
starvation.
had a field day with this because she's been pointing out for the last year or so, it's her work to point out how like the neoliberals will simply just say will be about making you feel better even though your material conditions are getting worse.
Yep.
There's a Daria joke which I've watched a lot of Daria clips several months ago, and it was one of it was the Misery Chick episode where everyone's like, you think, Daria, gloomy stuff, this guy died and I'm feeling sad, and so it's like, you're good with emotions, Daria. Can you help me? Like, I feel bad about my cat who almost died. And it's like, okay, $10. It's like, all right, feel something other than sadness. It's like, what? That's not worth $10. You see, you're angry. It's already working. And she like stops herself because it's one of the vapid fashion chicks. He's
Sure.
like, I guess you're right, and storms off, and Jane turns to Daria and says, like, oh wow, that was pretty cool of you. Next time, Daria says 20.
But yeah, you're right. Like those sorts of people, the neoliberals you talk about, are the people that are always like, obsessing over being grateful for everything you have, and always talking about how it could be worse, and like, oh, it really puts things in perspective, and really, the effect is just to pacify and, accept your fate, whatever we throw at you.
And so here's the double bind that I feel I'm put in. The game that's being played here on all of us is, and I guess Zizek was always referring to this. It's vibes, right? Everything's vibes based.
Yeah.
It's good. And the Harris campaign, the joy rhetoric line is about the vibes. And when Biden was dropped and Harris was pushed up by the donor class, it's the vibes have been fixed. Now suddenly the Democrats can beat Trump and will beat Trump, and only if and we just have to believe in them, and we have to now we believe that they'll win, and that's got everyone, including some people I know, in a good mood to support lesser evilism. Before they were kind of on the fence, or they were unsure about it, or they were just like, oh, I really fucking hate that I'll have to vote for Biden. Now they can feel good about voting lesser evil, because the vibes are good. And I made like a kind of snippy remark on my Facebook or in a comment, and that's probably a mistake. And the guy I know who used to be registered green, I'm pretty sure he isn't now. He definitely isn't now by now. Was basically calling me a buzzkill and saying like, yeah, you really got to win anything like that. It's like, you're done, just like get away, get it, sort of just like ick, get away, get out of here, Dan. being pretty insulting to me, and maybe he was just giving me in kind. So that's why I've just chosen to,
Yeah.
okay, no more messages on his timeline or comments. Because I was being snippy at the time, and it's because it was just it seemed to be low hanging fruit. But I certainly wasn't directing at him. It's like I'm not calling him stupid or chump. But I guess it could come like that, and that's why I just, I'll think twice. But that's the thing. It's like you guys just say nothing almost, and maybe just focus on the people who are not vibes based and actually are upset at the state of things and how there's improvements here and there, but it's in certain areas of our institutions, but obviously not the whole system.
Yeah.
And just like the complete arrogance of the and again, another point of ignorance from Vosh and any blue MAGA Democrat is we only take votes from Democrats, except there are races where we will have more Republicans voting for us. Now, of course, if that happens, then they'll say, oh, so I guess the Greens are actually right wing. They appeal more to the right. They appeal to Republicans. If we would do this, we would still be the enemy.
That's the thing.
Right?
There's nothing we can do to actually gain their positive attitude towards us.
Well, that's why me and any other Green takes the blanket position of we do not care about the opinions of progressives, because if as long as they have the psychopathic commitment to the Democrats and lesser evilism and third position, then they're sort of lost causes to us. They're not going to vote for us no matter what.
Yeah.
They're not going to support us, either one. We kind of learned that lesson when we did safe state strategy.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, okay, if we want to, and it still comes up because they're ignorant of it and it's not their fault, but it's like when they ask, why do the Greens not do safe states strategy? Like, well, you must be new here because we did that and it didn't fucking matter. It destroyed us, and no progressive in any safe state voted for us. So the reality is, and the slogan that Hawkins came with is, there is no such thing as safe states. Every state is a swing state.
Yeah. Especially
for us, but also for the freaking, in reality, the fact that there are these safe states, like Texas, right? But now you have, what was it, 2016, where suddenly like there are 5 more swing states? Texas is going purple. Colorado is now blue or purple. Arizona is purple. All of these now more swing states.
Right.
Eventually, the whole country will be swing
One
states.
big swing state. Yeah.
But the progressive will say, well, now you shouldn't run anywhere. Well, you didn't want us running in safe states either.
Yeah.
As Vosh is showing in his rhetoric, he does not want us at all.
No, he wants no alternative to the Democrats.
And that goes for any imperialist progressive.
Yeah.
They just don't want any independent politics.
Nope.
They're committed to being in the enter. And though there are entryists who respect those who are independent and in fact can even collaborate, or at least maybe we know we're on the same team, but we're going to basically be separate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's sort of how I feel about the DSA. It's like we can basically be in our silos. We're on the same team. We're in team socialism.
Right.
But us and Greens kind of need to be separate. Even though the people I think could ever help me will also be them.
Sure, yeah.
Right. But then it's a local race, and it's a local race, and it's different, I suppose.
Yeah.
Though sometimes it feels like it isn't, because maybe they feel like they're jeopardize their position as volunteers for a DSA Democrat if they help an independent eco-socialist line. I think that has occurred, or just I get a sense, but the official position of local DSA chapters is that they will endorse any campaign that appeals to them. Which occurred when some of them endorsed Howie. but it was just like a few, which was a disappointment.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'll stop. We'll stop at 9 or 8 o'clock for you with this video.
9 o'clock. No, I can still go till 9 o'clock my time. So that'd be 10 your time.
No, I just mean we'll stop this video.
Stop this video. Oh, okay. Sure. Got it. I just had
We're
another.
only 3 minutes in.
Sure, I know we're stopping quite a bit, but I just had one other thought because Vosh keeps harping on this. Basically, his entire argument seems to come down to the spoiler effect, right? This is the levy, or this is levied against the Greens every 4 years. Your spoilers. You take the votes away. That's why we don't want you around and stuff like that. Okay, well, I asked a question in the Facebook group that I run recently, like, to those of you who are going to be blue no matter who, what would it take for you to vote green? And they all said a viable chance of winning. Well, okay, what is the only viable chance that the Greens will have of winning eventually is it's going to be some sort of ranked choice voting, right? But how many of these people that are crying spoiler, spoiler, spoiler are ever advocating for ranked choice voting on a federal level? How many of them make that a big part of what they push the Democrats for? If they're so concerned about this spoiler effect, why is that not one of their number one priorities? Then they never have to worry about that anymore.
They have all this. I mean, in essence, they like the ineffective child. They know, or they act as they are weaklings and powerless, and they have to do all of this and be lesser evil, just so and this is the true the sadness of the thing that makes me sad about the Blue MAGAs, Vosh, or just any socialist who talks this way, or swings this way, is that they're giving up on the entire leftist project by basically saying we just need to, at least as far as elections go, for president, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But of course, Green Party, independent politics is not just fucking about the presidential campaign.
Of course.
Ballot access is part of having independent politics.
Yeah.
Right. And we have to run for president to do that.
Right.
That's the goals.
Right.
And getting
on
matching
board.
funds, which I don't know how true this was, but Jill was claiming in the airport on one of her TikToks that the FCC was withholding the matching funds. And maybe I think they did it. They probably release them eventually, but they delay in releasing the matching funds. So even when we fundraise like hell for the matching funds, they still don't give it to us. They make up some excuse or they delay it, so we get it a little too late.
Yeah.
Especially for the ballot access, because the ballot access deadline is the 9th for the last 3 or 5 states. It looks like we'll definitely be up to 40. I'll be surprised if we're not, but I guess I'll check. But I know there's at least 5 states we won't be on the ballot because there's just no sensible way, or we don't have a Green Party chapter to even start an effort there. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess kind of a follow-up to all of that. What would you think it would take for the Democrats to ever adopt ranked choice voting at any level as part of their platform? Do you think they will ever willingly come to it, or must they be forced?
Oh, they have to be forced. I need to look. We could look at, maybe we check out some videos on how it was won in Maine and Oregon.
Sure.
But the thing about ranked choice is that it's only it helps with voting for executive offices.
Mm-hmm.
It is not a panacea as far as independent politics goes.
Of course not.
Green rhetoric will now include proportional representation. Any chance we get, we'll say ranked choice, proportional representation.
Yeah.
With legislators.
Totally on board with that.
Multi-member districts, like actual parliamentary. And that will likely require some constitutional amendment.
Yeah. For sure.
It can be but it can be done locally and in regions and states.
I totally agree with that. Definitely all for proportional representation. Anything that makes democracy more democratic. Absolutely.
And actually, and the good news is, all of the election reform organizations, whether they have bipartisan, patriot in their name even, will list proportional representation in their list of policies that we endorse and fight for. It may not be the first thing they're kind of being about. And sometimes some of them will be lobbying for things we're against, like the open primaries. Because some orgs will have the only kind of contradiction is of sorts is whether or not you're pro or anti-party. There's
Sure.
certain voter empowerment, like they're just voters first, which is anti-party. And so it's like anything that changes the election system to make parties obsolete is what we're for. And I guess that is like Cuba and one party
Yeah,
states.
yeah.
You know, it
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter how you run as long as you're able to run and you get funding.
Yeah.
But you'll still have associations of candidates
Sure.
and things like that. But that's essentially what the major parties are. Any left wing or independent party is actually not. It is an actual political org with rules and things that they want to do and actually help elect people.
Yeah. Yeah, totally agree with all that. It seems to me that our main impediment to actually building any sort of momentum and getting buy-in is just that spoiler effect that just sticks around in everyone's
Yeah.
mind. Although ironically, I think it's also probably our best tool for changing that and actually getting proportional, or not proportional, but ranked choice voting is being a spoiler as much as we possibly can until they are forced to adopt ranked choice
That's
voting.
one way of looking at it. The other way, which I would prefer the narrative go, is we shift. The rhetoric is the spoiler effect is bullshit. The impediment to keep us from being viable is the election system, right? Not the voting system.
I agree.
The election system.
I agree.
The system. So that kind of reform is sort of the first thing then. It's hard to get people there though because it doesn't appeal to the economic interests people have.
Right.
You kind of need to pair it together, and
Yeah, I'm just saying whether
yeah.
or not it's an actual true effect, it is definitely a psychological barrier to people even taking a third party seriously.
Yeah,
So
because
I
they're
think for
thinking
that
just
alone,
in terms of the first past the post,
right?
one person, one vote voting, and yeah, just bringing up like the making it a question, the voting question,
Mhm.
the elections question, and it's always annoying, of course, when the question is just that basic, like, do you vote or not in this system, not what kind of voting do we want to be doing, which is sort of brought up, but that's usually like halfway into the conversation, and then it's sort of like dropped because whether there's obviously no big movement for that. It's not voting isn't killing millions of people, or hundreds in the case of police violence.
Sure.
People can go out into the streets for that, but of course we don't need people in the streets. We need people lobbying. We need people pushing for it, and that requires education, I guess, and people having some free time. But that's a big ask, right? It takes economic self-sufficiency. So it's just all of these things are interdependent, right? The movement for socialism builds infrastructure that allows people to have the time and to be full-time organizers
Yep.
for campaigning for the reforms that allow them to gain office, keep it, and then also act in ways once they hold office in ways that are counter to capitalist interests. It's something that feels like it would take 30 years, but it's just like I'm not saying we don't have 30 years, but it's just like it shouldn't freaking take 30 years, because in 30 years, what else is going to be happening?
Oh, of course.
You like we were talking like this 15 years ago, and I'm frustrated. It really feels like we've made no progress despite everything that's happened and all of the changes where it's like, well, now socialism isn't such a pariah word.
Taboo, yeah.
It's not as taboo.
Mm-hmm.
Certainly if you're outside the right. I mean, it's still kind of, it's skittish to anyone who's sent, even progressives even will be like, well, I'm still a capitalist, or I believe in markets. It's like, fine, market socialism. let's we'll go. That's why I think Vosh would call himself a market socialist.
He at least used to. I don't know if he still does, but yeah.
Exactly, he doesn't have to, but he used to. Is what.
Mm-hmm.
That's as radical as a lot of people would go.
Yeah.
And I'm okay with that. It's not it's not getting rid of the commodity form and other such Marxist things, concepts, but
It's a giant
again,
leap. Yeah.
baby steps, especially far from. Yeah, I mean, people are anti-capitalist, but oh yeah, this was One Dime episode they had talking about economic planning and new models, socialist models, and how it's like, yeah, where there's a lot of anti-capitalists, but not a lot of post-capitalism happening, or sentiments even, which is how people get turned into populists, where it's just like, well, as long as we're against the bankers and doing things that are against their interests, and that means it's for my interests. Well, you're not really changing the game; you're playing it. Got to change the rules for a new game
Right.
if we're gonna play in those terms.
Indeed. All right. Well, I think we should, if we're gonna have any chance of finishing
Yeah,
this.
yeah.
I
move
keep
on.
getting sidetracked though, but yeah, let's move on.
Well, everything he says,
You
you
are
know, but
helping us
Yeah.
assert our democracy again, our democracy that is on life support.
Can the same argument be made for the uncommitted voters effort? No, because that organization has a very clear and specific goal: selective withholding of votes on the condition that they do X. It's very standard political stuff, you know? Not grifty third-party campaigns that have no objective other than to funnel votes away from the Democratic Party.
Funnel, as though they deserve those votes.
Which is really a propaganda that you're throwing your
and it's not even the right metaphor. It should be like we're sucking votes or
Yeah.
we're like grabbing votes. Funnel.
Right.
Like the votes are here in a pile and they're on a tree and we're putting a
Anyone
funnel
tries
up.
to sell you on this, the
Right. 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 That's ridiculous.
idea of like you're not actually throwing your vote away. They're lying to you and they're a grifter, and you should not listen to them. You can at least be honest and say you are throwing your vote away out of protest. It's stupid, but at least that's interest.
This extortion of your vote, that it would be a waste of your vote to vote against genocide. And I want to speak to that. First of all, genocide is the moral imperative of our time.
Genocide is the moral imperative of our time. I feel like she's misspoken already like 7 times.
200,000 people who have been slaughtered on our phone screens, on our computer screens. 2 million being bombed, denied food, water, shelter, sanitation, medical care, hospitals, schools, universities destroyed, journalists murdered. Over 1,000 children have had leg amputations.
What is this camera work? Yeah, do they not have the money for a tripod for their event?
Without anesthesia. That is a symbol of the brutality and the cruelty of this genocide. If you vote for genocide, you are consenting to it and you are enabling it. Don't let them talk you into it. Don't let them talk you out of your humanity.
The idea that if you vote for a candidate, you consent to everything they do is not only stupid on the face of it, it's also like, I don't even know if I can say it's reaction. It's like, it's not even like a valid political theory. It's no one believes this. No, like that's not even in the wheelhouse. No one believes that. It's a completely unserious position. No one believes that.
He's got to say it 5 times, so you know.
Yeah.
We must hold our
It's that
elected
repetition.
officials accountable and vote to end genocide. Otherwise, you are part of that genocide.
Also, if she was actually running for president rather than just being a Russia-paid wedge to funnel votes away from the Democrats, shouldn't she be, I don't know,
Your piece funnel
like,
votes
her goal be to
and Russian wedge or wedge.
Yeah.
He uses this phrase
Yeah.
10 times. Like he
Right.
just has some phrases, words, and he just repeats them.
Yeah.
It's not real analysis. It's
No.
just repetition because he doesn't really know anything else.
Oh, it's a conspiracy mongering, like.
And just the kind of and just that words, that's real word salad when it's like it's what kind of, it's not, is it reactionary? It's not even any real theory.
Yeah. Yeah.
He doesn't know his political theory. And sure, I don't know the exact name for it either, but the political science concept that if you are, a vote is consent, a vote is for something,
Mm-hmm.
right? You are voting for the party and its agenda, all right? I know there's all of that. There's a counter theory is that a vote is strategic. A vote is for your like let's say it's an independent position, and your position will be stronger if this person's in office. And my whole life has passed, and I don't think the progressive position has gotten any stronger especially on the national level, based on progressives voting for the Dems. Or anyone with an independent politics voting for the Dems. They just when you get, as how we put it, as lost in the sauce. Your vote is for them. It's not for anything else. It's not for part of it, it's for all of it. And all of it includes imperialism. Because even if it's the good things, the goodies for workers, it's still predicated on imperialist oppression of third world.
Oh yeah.
And that's sort of the line that the Stein and the Green Party campaign this cycle is definitely going with. We're really pushing or leaning, or we're just, as our default messaging, we're really sticking with the, and it's part of, it's for the Palestine and anti-genocide campaign, is an anti-imperialist position. So we're sort of leaning into that side of our politics, which has always been there. But it's that position that we are anti-imperialist. And yes, that means not funding the war in Ukraine and letting some peace settlement happen there. Okay, if it's for Russia's benefit, okay, whatever. It's a lesser evil compared to our domination of the world.
Yeah.
I think that's our position, and I think that's disputed by the others, who dispute us. Okay, let's have that argument then.
Sure.
That's the honest argument. Is it worth having our empire to maintain our treats and our economic position in the world as the labor aristocracy, even though a quarter of Americans are in debt and have negative fucking income or assets? And that freaking chart, there's a new version of it, by the way, which is just even more severe, that someone made. Asimov Gold was covering it. I'll have to find it again.
But yeah, even the average American cannot afford a $400 surprise charge. So
yeah, that's 600. That's 60% of Americans.
That's quite.
So we don't feel like the labor aristocracy, though. I suppose, like just going off the standard of living, I suppose, and being in the core, right? We're not going to get genocided.
Right.
We can get killed by the police for property crime, and there's a general state of alienation and whatnot. So that's a counter to where the labor aristocracy.
Sure.
But that's just a Maoist position. So it's like, yeah, I'm not actually an MLM.
Fair enough. All right, let's continue on.
To campaign to be president, what presidential candidate holds rallies about abandoning the other, like one of the other two? Like, what are you talking about? Are you even running?
Voting against genocide is a practical imperative because 500,000 lives are on the line right now, according to the United Nations, from starvation, who may die over the course of the next month. And now there is polio and cholera thrown into the mix. Every vote against genocide is a shot across the bow of the empire, announcing that its days are numbered.
Jesus Christ, oh my God, grift language. Well, we're only going over this so everyone can appreciate and learn to identify stuff like this. Okay.
He's teaching his audience how to identify a grifter because they're anti-imperialist.
I hate to say it, but this does remind me at least somewhat of the Borisenko stream that we looked at, where she is saying, when you hear this, folks, they really mean that. It's like, supplanting all of the language to be coming to her agenda. and he seems to be priming his own audience in the same way, which is very unfortunate to see. As though there's never a legitimate reason to oppose the
In a
Democrats.
way, it's sort of been that way the whole time. At least going back to 2020, maybe. I think pre-2020. But here's the thing to understand that I think later on, and we'll definitely stop so we won't get there. What I'm talking about now.
Yeah.
But Vosh will mention, like, I went to college, and I know, like, oh yeah, like he calls this like egghead stuff, theory and having politics that aren't just vibes based, basically. And yeah, no, he's proud that the politics are vibes based, and to not be vibes based is to be an egghead and just be academic and abstract. And like, I went to college, and I've seen how people are like there. It's like, the truth is that he only went to college so he could be a better debate bro.
Yeah.
Because he was already a debate bro in his teens. He was a Destiny follower. It's like, well, if I'm going to do what Destiny's doing, I should go to college and get a sociology degree so I can own people better.
Right.
And have that credential.
Mm-hmm.
And then he'll be completely anti-intellectual, like, most of the time.
Yeah. That's
crazy.
It's disappointing, is what it is.
I don't know what the numbers are anymore, but I'm I can assume that a lot of online left is dropping off over time, and maybe that's just because we're in the Democratic cycle, and then if Trump wins, they'll be coming back with a vengeance, I guess.
Yeah.
A resurgence.
Mm-hmm.
Let's just make sure we're not confusing like our success with theirs.
Right.
Because he's rich, and it's just, what's he doing with it?
Right. That always is in the back of my mind too. If he thinks he knows so much about political organizing and effective messaging and rhetoric and all this stuff, why is he not more involved in actual political campaigns? Why is he not running for something himself? Like, well,
he feels like he did when he was part of Progressive Victory. This was like a way of like it was an org started by Barana Wu, or at least she's the head of it, and it was started to basically recruit streamers to be the PR arm of like progressive Democrats. But then Progressive Victory started endorsing like right wingers or something, or I don't know. It was just some takedown video, so I don't know the details. But anyone they were helping didn't win, so it wasn't really a real help. And they did like this event in the Bronx where it was a canvassing day, and it was Vosh and some other streamers doing like just talking to each other, and it was not the most, but it was pretty jilted and cringe and not entertaining. And of course I don't find this entertaining either. But they are entertainers first and foremost. But again, it's like, fine, then make me laugh, and that means you should be debating people or whatever. And that's this guy Javon, who I kind of like because he is a council communist, and he's proud of it. And he does like he does his stream more like an actual call-in show.
Oh, okay. And
so it's really like he's returning the form with the atheist community of Austin, the atheist experience, and that feeling of that vibe and content of the new atheist movement.
Sure.
Where he has his stream, and he basically, again, hapless victims call in to argue about. He has 6 topics listed in his chat.
Sure. And
it's like you just pick one, and so he has like these talking points down on those 6 things. So he doesn't really need to go off, and but others will go off the tangent. So he's a pretty chill dude.
That sounds interesting. What'd you say his name was? I'm gonna look him up.
Javon with a J. He's a black dude. Wears the cat headphones.
Okay. Is he on Twitch, or what is he on?
He has a YouTube channel, which is I've been listening to at work. Let's see. I'll look it up. We'll take this moment. Not Baker, is it? No. Von Baker is a football player. Javon Debate a communist. I'll just put that up. Debate a socialist. Bradley.
Javon Bradley.
Yeah.
Okay. That up, Javon. Okay. Oh, Jovan. Gotcha.
He's my new favorite.
Cool.
All the others are my old favorite. That includes Sunday now. I
Yeah.
mean, he has some good things to say sometimes, but he's also just sort of like, he knows what he is, and he hates everybody. And he'll only befriend or work with anyone just long enough to basically go like, oh, they're actually an asshole and terrible all the ways. And the thing is, he's right. So it's just like, but it's sort of like it's a game. Everyone is terrible, and he'll work with somebody and act like they're fine not until, but it's like, but he actually does know they're not fine. They are in fact a mess, or
Okay.
unethical or something.
Sure. Interesting.
Okay, Route 9. So let's move on to something nicer.
Yeah, definitely. Let's see.
Something positive. Not
Yeah.
'cause he's kind of negative too, as far as like he's just has an argument. It's literally the argument sketch from Monty Python. I've come here for an argument.
Arguments. This is abuse. Yeah. Do we want to do the Bill Maher one now for as long as we can
sure.
stomach it?
Right? Yeah. We shouldn't. Hopefully, we don't stop all the time.
Yeah.
But it won't be something ugly every minute. But essentially, the thing is here is he does his usual jokes as if he's talking to adults, but he's talking to kids.
It was so bizarre. I saw a few clips of it, and yeah.
So let's see if we can get some more. See what's not getting clipped. Let's get some context. Maybe it's fine in context.
So this Club Random with Bill Maher. I will put the link in the chat.
It's so
there.
random. Look at that couch. Primary colors. It's so
It's like
random.
a 90s Nickelodeon studio. It's ridiculous.
Hey, I would love to have a house like the Nickelodeon studio.
I guess Bill Maher did
In fact,
too.
where do you get furniture from Nickelodeon sets? Let's grab some.
That's true. Yeah.
Hopefully, it's not $500 for a couch.
Right.
I guess that is an old price for a couch, right?
Yeah.
I've never had to pay for a couch. I've always grabbed one from the street. There's always somebody who needs to shift a couch.
That's true. Yeah, someone's got to move out of state, and the couch.
Including myself,
I've ditched plenty of couches for sure. Yeah.
I gave it to someone with cats.
Yep. There you go. All right, let's listen in on Billy Boy.
What can I say? It's hard to get good help with. How old are you? 8. Wow, you look older than 8, but plainly.
Ew! I was already starting the creepiness.
You what? Maybe that's the mix-up. Maybe it was supposed to be your brother. Are there anybody between you and your brother at 16 and 8?
My cat, she's 14, 15.
That does not really count. I mean, I'm talking about
because I have a sister. She's the oldest of my sibling.
How old is she?
And the youngest of my.
This is riveting stuff here, Mar. Let's fast forward a little bit. This is.
Yes.
Yeah, that's not that interesting, right? No.
Also, the shot reverse shot is also not helping.
No.
Usually, it is one shot like this with him and the two chairs surrounded by alcohol.
As he just slumps further and further into his seat from drinking the entire time. Yeah.
And as has been pointed out by others, he does walk on the set with that drink, and he does have that bottle of vodka.
God, he is wow.
He has to be drunk.
Has to be drunk to talk to people. I think he really hates people.
And he doesn't talk well.
No, he doesn't.
He's interrupting her.
Uh-huh.
He's like, oh, well, yeah. I mean, he's talking like me when I'm nervous.
He probably is nervous. He's just a really weird, creepy guy around children. I think he probably hates people in general and does what he can to avoid any sort of contact with children because he just doesn't have to have that in his life.
When somebody thinks about Jerry Seinfeld really deeply, that's also the conclusion they come to.
Yeah, right?
If you observe Jerry Seinfeld, like
he's incredibly insecure, yeah.
And he hates people.
And he hates people. Yeah, he really just these misanthropic guys get to the top of the comedy world somehow.
Under the bed while I was watching TV up on top of him.
Yeah. So what do you do for danger?
For danger?
Yeah. For kicks.
For kicks? Like what?
What?
I don't know. You tell me. You're the kid.
Then change the question, Bill.
What do you, like,
Ask a different question if she doesn't have like a cool, pithy answer.
What
If she
do
doesn't
you
know
do
what you're
for
talking about,
danger?
you changed the topic. You changed the question.
He's just
What do you do
god
for
awful
kicks?
interview. Oh my god.
Change it to what do you do for fun? What
Right?
are your hobbies?
She's
That's
obviously
what
not
you're
getting
really
it, Bill.
asking. Don't use innuendo, okay? You're going over her head because she's
Right?
8.
Because she's 8. I don't think. Yeah.
He doesn't talk to kids.
Doesn't talk
ever.
to kids. No.
What I did for kicks was, what's that?
Phone?
The phone.
What is that?
I'm sure.
She was talking about Roblox.
Right.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you if you should download it.
No, you shouldn't even have a phone.
I got one
Too
when
young.
I was 3.
3?
Yes, and I
That was my reaction in my head because I couldn't
That
figure
is-
out. 3?
That's pretty young.
It's just so wrong.
My niece just got her first phone.
I mean,
She's
my kids
11.
don't technically have phones. They got tablets.
She's
and plenty of
11, so
screens.
she's getting into puberty. But
Right.
The justification is that she's taking a bus.
Right.
She'll
That
be
makes
taking
sense.
buses
Once you
to
start going out into the wider world, it's the best lifeline to them. That makes sense. But 3? No. That's too young.
I mean, 3. And what do you do on your phone?
I play Roblox, Minecraft, and I have it on my own YouTube channel. And I also have an Instagram account and a TikTok account. At this age, at 8 years old.
At this age, that was my line.
I don't think that's legal. You know, just putting that out there. I don't think you're allowed to have these channels
good
if you're
point.
a kid. So someone has missed the
I
ball.
don't think there was any age blocker when I started my account, but
I mean,
I know there's a difference when there's a 14 under 14 above 14. I think
at
at least.
I don't think she just has an account. I think she's actually putting out content, is what she's saying. And I don't think you were allowed to be a YouTuber at age 8.
Maybe it's her parents. I mean, again,
I don't think that's legal.
it has
either.
been pointed out, and I think we'll be getting more context by watching more than just a minute. That her or the parents of the kids who put them on Club Random are terrible exploitative people who are exploiting their kids. I
guess that would follow, yeah.
Maybe we can make a inference that they're like TikTok families, and
Just the live
they're
stream
like,
their
let's
entire family.
give our kids
sort
some
of thing.
exposure.
Oh.
And I mean, maybe we need to look up who these kids are and look at their accounts and what kind of stuff
Yeah, probably not a rabbit hole.
What's their content are?
Mm-hmm. Anyway, let's see some more great questions from Bill.
I don't even know her.
I mean, right, at this age. Don't you think so? I mean, this guy's 16, and you put him in the position of being like kids today. I gotta tell you, that's just crazy. I mean, right?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy to have a phone at 3?
I don't think I had a phone at 8. I think I got my first phone in 4th grade, and it was like a really old Samsung Android.
Right.
And
4th grade's 10. That's not that.
Yeah,
much
that's like
older.
10.
I was born in 2015, so it was like in 2019 when I joined Roblox. And I started reading stuff immediately when I started playing Roblox and started typing.
Wait,
Also,
you
a
joined-
lot of exploitation of kids in Roblox.
My phone's
Yeah, you gotta be careful with
I
that.
can't.
What, spell it. Spell Roblox.
ROBLOX.
What is it?
It's like a game where you can have mini games inside of it that you can play together.
Oh, like the
Make
Matrix?
games.
No.
Oh. I never saw that either.
And then this is also a game that's also educational.
He never saw the Matrix. I don't. He does not consume other culture. I'm wondering because the way
what
he
does
talks
he do
about
with his time?
yeah, I don't think
Doesn't
you
like
know
people.
that joke from the Rugrats where it's like it's not my fault you haven't seen a movie since Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
Yeah, I like Chitty Chitty Bang, but man, that still
That's
sticks to
Bill
me.
Maher. It's like
I
you
guess
haven't seen a
so.
movie since Footloose.
Probably.
I like Footloose.
I guess that would explain all his cultural references, how they're all like rooted firmly in the 80s, maybe early 90s if you're lucky.
It's probably the last time he saw a movie
Oh,
or experienced any mainstream culture. And because
what a
or whenever
horror,
he
man.
became mainstream culture, you know?
Yeah.
Like once
Oh,
he
yeah.
became it, he doesn't have to interact with it anymore.
I guess that would be like, yeah,
I get
mid 90s.
that's the freedom of being rich, right? You're above it all.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
don't have to interact
Don't
with
have to follow all that
society.
stuff anymore. Yeah. Wow.
What about Game of Thrones? I hear people love it. And
Game of
it's-
Thrones.
Have you watched Game of Thrones?
Yeah.
You know it's rated
No?
R, Bill.
Wow.
I
Even
watched-
Game of
There's like, you know, softcore sex scenes in that show. Why would you be asking children this?
Beheadings.
And not to mention incredibly graphic violence and just...
Well, you know what? I guess I'm wrong. He must have watched Game of Thrones, but no, he's talking about it like he
said, I've heard people
he
like
doesn't know
that
anything
one.
about it.
So
That's right. No,
okay.
This
So maybe-
reinforces it. He's heard about it. He's heard about it. Oh, this is what the kids are watching. But he's 10 years late.
Right? When was the last... I suppose it's the new season out, but no.
That's what the kids are watching Game of
There's
Thrones.
kids these days watching the Game of Thrones. No, they're not. Well,
And Breaking Bad.
Yeah, he's gonna ask that one. You guys like Breaking Bad? What do you think is about
I hear
his
that's
strategy?
popular.
Yeah, I heard that's popular with the young folks. How about The Sopranos? Yeah.
I do shock my housemate whenever he mentions Breaking Bad, and I'm like, no, I'm not watching that. Or I haven't. It's like, oh, come on, man.
Yeah, there's always those series that people just cannot believe.
Was it Breaking Bad or was it another show? Probably something else.
Oh, yeah. Anyway.
Thrones is too like old school for like kids.
I watched Clue in real life.
It's old school.
No, nope. You know what? No, you'll put an eye out. We're very safety conscious here at this house.
Wait, what was she doing?
Look both ways.
Throwing her
before you do
phone
anything.
in the air? I don't.
We're not even in
If you
a
see a
row.
dog, tell a policeman.
Why? Your dogs are missing?
No, I'm just saying we're very safety conscious in this house. Don't never look directly at a cloud. I just want kids to be safe. You. Let's talk about you because you. I can't even understand your life. Maybe I could kind of understand his life a little bit. You don't watch TV either?
I mean, I watch maybe a couple episodes of something my mom is watching.
Like what? What is your mom watch?
She was watching Suits a while ago.
Yeah, because Meghan Markle's on it. That's great. I love
I mean,
it.
I actually used to watch I used to watch TV a lot with her. Like, you know what Blue Bloods is? It's like
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
Tom Selleck. Do I know what Blue Bloods is? I mean, I would never watch it like I wouldn't watch any detective work on CBS. But, I mean, that's for people...
It's propaganda, yeah.
Can you believe that?
You love it. It's propaganda.
Yeah, that's surprising.
And get this. He's trying to understand these kids by asking them what they watch.
Yeah.
Because that's his common frame of reference. Like I need to find something I can connect with these kids on.
But then he doesn't.
I guess
he hasn't watched any of it either. So like he could.
Yeah.
It's just awkward, like misses. Like yeah.
Okay.
We're teaching ourselves how
What
to
are
be
you gonna
better
do when you
social.
grow up?
I
I'm gonna
guess.
become a baker, still be an actress, and I might steal Ashley's job, and then
Steal Ashley's job. My Ashley?
yeah.
She does the media here for this company. She does, puts out the clips and stuff. That is a great job to get into. And you seem to be very savvy since you had a phone in the womb. You laugh, but that's next. They're just going to implant a phone in there, so the kid when they
Stop there.
born,
You did a funny
An
inflection,
actual joke.
like an actual clown, and she did laugh at you.
Yeah. He's got to keep.
Don't
pushing
push it. Don't. He had to keep pushing it.
Cannot help himself.
When I was inside my mom's womb, I was always making her eat cheese and milk, and I now am like sensitive to milk.
Wait a
Don't
second.
drink it.
When I was in my mother's womb, I made her.
I made her like I was like, I'm
Yeah.
hungry.
Okay.
I was
It's
picking on her.
not all about you. Okay. I think before you're born, let other people talk. Okay. That's what I think about being born. You gotta wait till you're born before you get a vote. Right. What is your birthday? Well, I'm judging.
I don't know why I find it so funny.
It's just so awkward.
I was just holding in that exasperated.
When's your birthday? Why? What are you going
I'm not
for?
laughing at that. I'm laughing at like I guess a bunch of things together.
It's just so.
The he's trying to. I'm just trying to fathom how what is. He's trying to be really sarcastic with these teens, right? In a way, in an effort to be funny.
Yeah.
And to make them laugh.
The 8-year-old doesn't know what the hell he's saying any of the time.
We're 5 minutes in, and he hasn't figured out that that's not the type of humor that appeals to them. They're not getting your jokes.
No.
They're not getting the sarcasm, and like they're taking you literally because you're talking like a parent. You're supposed to be like he's pretending to be a sarcastic parent or something, right?
Uh-huh.
They're interacting with him like a parent because they're actually kids, right? So it's okay. So any interview, right, is adult to adult. That's a transaction. And when you play a game, or certain games can be child to child, parent to child, child to kid, a child to parent, but you have to be conscious of what which ego, right? And they're kids, so they've got child egos, right? They don't even have, maybe they have part of an adult ego. These things form literally like as you develop,
right?
It's not like a switch at 22,
right?
So the teen will have more of an adult ego than the 8-year-old, but the 8-year-old can certainly more child ego than adult ego, and definitely no parent ego. Though a kid have a parent ego when they're playing house or snitching or whatever, or being bossy, taking on their parents, right? And Mar is playing a parent.
But it keeps not landing. It keeps not working at all. He's the only one laughing at most of the things he says. Like, maybe that's it. Maybe he just really doesn't care. He's just going to amuse himself.
For 50, 40
we gotta go forward a little bit here.
Okay, we're going to skip. Okay.
I think so, because this is not going anywhere. Let's see if this actually
picks
up steam and all.
Oh, you got to the end. That was just part of it, then.
Still.
Okay, well, just because you don't have kids doesn't mean you have to adopt.
Yeah, you don't have to adopt.
Don't have to be around them at all, right?
Yeah. Well,
I heard that you didn't like kids.
That is a rumor started by a child I knocked into the gutter with the door of my limousine. It is not true at all.
why did you not get it?
No, I mean, some of us don't want to have kids around all the time, but do I, here with you, look like someone who doesn't like kids? Of course
yes,
not.
yes, you absolutely do. Even she's not buying it.
I like all people in limited time amounts.
Kids can know a bullshitter.
So, okay.
That's
so
that's how they learn how to lie.
Something like physical therapy,
trainer.
Yeah.
Now he's just getting to asking him what his goals are.
Right.
Well, it's important about what you make money at.
The fuck did they talk about for those 10 minutes after?
I might do something in like the medicine field.
No idea.
I don't know. Maybe my mom would say maybe I should try
Medical.
to become a doctor, but I don't know. It doesn't.
Well, well, then you shouldn't.
I know.
And it takes an amazing amount of dedication. Not only medical school, which is a killer, but as soon as you get out of medical school, they put you in a hospital where you work like 80-hour weeks. They work you till you can't even see what's going on.
That kind of also reminds me of a show that I was in, Grey's Anatomy.
What were you playing?
I was
in the...
playing like an audience for like. It was, like,
Oh, she's a
play.
child actress.
Okay.
That's why she has socials and whatnot, and an agent.
That makes sense.
But and
Okay.
she is a bit. She does have some charisma, right? You know.
Well, more
So
than
she's
Mar.
been-
So
But in Grey's Anatomy, so how young was she then?
she
How
must
long
have
has
been-
they been going?
Unless it was just recently. I mean, they're still making seasons of that, so maybe just
Oh, okay.
recently.
Then I retract. I didn't know.
Yeah.
If she just played like a bit role, then okay, child
Yeah, I think
actor.
she was
hope
saying
doesn't-
something like an
I
audience.
hope she doesn't
member.
end up like the rest of them,
Oh,
But
God,
there are some positive cases.
It seems to be few and far between, but yeah.
Yeah.
And I
Well,
was, like,
Leo.
Like
So
a
a child? You're playing a
and-
child? I think you're being typecast. I think you're being typecast, and you should talk to your agent about it.
What?
You don't want to get called then you're always a child. Oh, I'm always not.
I didn't have an agent when I was in Grey's Anatomy, but I had a manager who was my manager and agent, and now I have an agent. And a manager still.
You have an agent and a manager.
Yes.
Yeah, how much do they take? Like, do you know that? Like, is it 10%? Is it 15%?
Oh my
Colonel
God.
Parker used
These
to
are
get
not
25,
questions for an
Is
8-year-old
that crazy
child
or what?
actress.
Kids, Colonel Parker, nothing? No.
Colonel Parker?
To be an artist,
You didn't
then-
watch the...
Colonel Parker? That's an
I don't even know
That's
what
an
that
Elvis wrestling reference. I believe he
That's
was
an Elvis
Elvis's manager. Colonel whatever Parker, yeah. Guy who got him hooked on opioids.
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's so surprising.
He must know he's making jokes that will go over their heads, and that awkwardness is the humor.
I guess
Right?
so.
It's like,
Oh,
I mean, get
is-
this. So it was mentioned. I think it was by the Majority Report people, where like, I don't know. No. They were talking about Matt Walsh, because he's trying to do like a Borat version of lefties, liberals. But like the Eric Andre show or something like that, like they'll or even Channel 5, they will have hours and hours and hours of filming, and only 10 minutes of it will actually be like funny, interesting interactions. And we're seeing here the chaff. And I think those two clips that are, getting here of the creepiness factor being up to 10 is like the wheat.
The wheat.
Or at least it's a wheat to us as far as like its peak cringe.
Yeah.
But like he was expecting that there would be more humor, but this sort of like awkward. I'm being generous, like this was his plan to be an awkward.
There's a way to be like awkward.
He's thinking
and
about
funny.
what he's saying, right?
Yeah.
That when he's making a reference to someone who killed Elvis, and it's like, oh, I hope you don't end up like that. But I think that's just maybe he's just talking like he's talking to another adult his age.
Yes.
About managers and how they can exploit you.
Mm-hmm.
But he's talking to an 8-year-old girl who has just appeared on Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah.
And maybe some soup commercials or whatever.
Yeah, probably.
Whatever.
I gotta know, is his audience eating this stuff up, or what?
Oh yeah, let's look at comments. I don't think you need to talk about porn or adult actresses with kids, dude.
Yeah.
It's creepy.
Well, that's
Talking
right.
about-
He talks about Stormy Daniels eventually in this.
He references Stormy Daniels.
Yeah.
He doesn't talk about her, but again, he uses her as a joke because that's his material. Those are the jokes cycling in his head, which, anyone who tells jokes will do that. This segment was a fun idea, but after watching it, all I've been thinking is that Bill needs to stay the hell away from kids.
Yeah.
That's normal. I think they'll all be the same kind of comment. The little girl is the next Bill Maher. She interrupts like a pro. Bill's next episode should be Bill interviews married couples.
Oh, God.
You look older than 8.
Yeah, right? Like
Bill
creepy
shouldn't be
out of
looking
the
at
gate.
Why is Bill talking to these 10-year-old girls about porn? That's the next time, by the way.
Yeah.
Did I ever tell you about the girl who broke up with me when I was 17? Bill chatting. Yeah, more of that. This comment section trolled Bill into hanging out with kids. Huh? I literally only clicked on this to see if Bill would be blowing weed smoke in the faces. My heart broke for the kid trying to shake Bill's hand. Bill just said to an 8-year-old, "Whatever kink you're into." Yeah, he does.
Oh, he does say that. That's right.
That's later.
All right. Well, I don't know. Should we go ahead to the where it really gets bad, or do you want?
I've seen it. I want to see more context, right? I
All
want to
right,
see
all right,
like what the lead up. You know, what's missing.
Oh yeah. All right. Let's see.
You know, you don't watch Star Wars just for the lightsaber.
True.
So that didn't interest you, even with Austin Butler?
I mean, I've been trying to like watch popular movies, like, but I don't like going to theaters that much.
Yeah, but it's been on. It's been on.
I know, but like we had an HBO Max subscription, but then like my mom just canceled it. So
Oh, well,
I used to
won't
have
take that
Paramount
personally,
subscription and my mom
although I
canceled
guess I
it.
could.
I had a Paramount subscription and my mom canceled it. Mom, if you're watching this, had it again. I need to watch the regular Victorious.
That's the same way I was at 10. I always knew where the camera was.
And then there's one right there.
I mean, she's a child actor.
I can't.
Where's the joke? Yeah, there are
It's
children
The Life
actors.
of Elvis doesn't interest you at all.
no,
You still
not
talking
really.
about Elvis?
You know he was like a bad MF.
And
No,
Elvis?
Yeah,
Was it?
Yeah, I've heard of him.
No, he wasn't.
you heard of him.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
The dude died like 50 years. The dude died like 50 years before she was born. Why would she know
It was then,
anything?
and it was then that Bill, the existential dread of death.
Wow. Oh, that's incredible stuff.
You're like, wow, I'm almost 70, you know, or is he 60?
I think he's in his 70s now. Yeah, I'd have to look
Exact.
it up.
I mean, he looks good for his age, right?
Yeah, being rich kind of tends to do that for you. You know.
How did you survive AIDS, Magic Johnson?
Right.
Oh, I just injected $100 bills into my bloodstream.
Basically.
That's from South Park.
Yeah,
It's a crude
that's
joke
something.
about AIDS.
He was born in 56, so almost 70. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oiga Vault.
You've noticed that you're an only child. What's that like?
I mean, I've heard from everyone that has siblings that it's the best thing that you know.
No.
That you don't?
No.
Yeah, that I
Sometimes they
don't
can
have
be mean.
siblings.
Sometimes they can be mean.
You have siblings
Yes.
and you don't like them?
She has
No,
the-
I do like them, but sometimes they can be mean and like yell at me.
And what about your parents? You like them?
Yeah, I like my parents.
You like your parents?
Yeah, I love my parents.
Look at that. Well-adjusted kids.
Well, no follow-ups.
They don't need their
Jesus
parents.
Christ.
What a bar. Yeah, I'm entertained, I guess.
I guess so. I guess, yeah. Has some entertainment value, not.
But here's the thing. Bill Maher's insecure fuck off, and this isn't an act. This isn't his intention.
Yeah.
He's not being Eric Andre. How
Right.
could you say something so like brave?
So brave.
It's so
and it's,
controversial.
yeah, right. No, because that would actually be funny, but like. And that's the thing, like Eric
Do you
Andre.
think Margaret Thatcher was a true embodiment of girl boss?
Yeah, like that would be funny. But the thing about Eric Andre is he always turns it around so that he's the one who looks bizarre and weird. He's
Yeah.
He's not
Yeah,
like.
it's girl power. It's like, do you think Margaret Thatcher was an embodiment of girl power?
Yeah, like that's actually funny. Like, oh man.
Plaid shirt and jean jacket.
What? Say this again?
I also told Ashley, to buy a jean jacket and a plaid shirt for you.
Why?
Because she asked me, out there, what your style should be. So I told her that, and she said that she'll probably
Jean
buy it.
jacket and what am I, jelly roll? I don't want a jean jacket and a plaid shirt. I'm not a
Jelly
cracker.
roll.
I'm not a farmer. A plaid shirt and a jean jacket. What is this, 1982? No, is that what's in now? Is that why you're saying I should wear this?
I don't know.
And you just think it fits me.
Yeah, I just think it fits you.
So what is that in your knee?
Oh,
hole
it's like ripped jeans, but this has like rips on the side, kind of, and
So these jeans, do
legging.
they come like that in the store?
yeah, kind
So
of.
you
But these
pay-
are.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. They're jeans that have a lining,
Sure.
so that the
why is
holes
it cooler
don't
to have
actually are
jeans
uncomfortable.
that look
Yeah.
like you're a blind hobo?
Because I put on some ripped jeans on, and I'm like, these jeans are full of holes, and every time I put them on, I'm only making the holes bigger because I literally like jam my foot into the half of them.
Yep. Yeah.
I
really-
mean, they weren't ripped jeans; they were jeans that had holes on the knees.
Right.
So I was just making the hole
Actually
bigger
worn
because
it, yeah.
my foot would go through the hole first.
Right. But like this is where he
Those are the
turns
deal.
now. He's turning to hey, you weird ass kids with your ripped jeans and your like.
He didn't have any planned questions.
I
But I
guess-
think that is the case of all club random. It's like I'm
And
going to be
that's
random.
fine.
I'm
That's
just
fine.
going it.
But you have
No prep. Just go random. And that would work if he was a charismatic, on his
Right.
feet thinker.
yeah.
But his show is completely scripted. He has writers.
right.
It's not. He's just the
It's
performer.
not. He's just delivering the lines. You're right.
He's
but yeah.
just delivering the lines.
But like
And he has to laugh at his own jokes as he's giving them, which,
yeah, and like
I mean, you can do that, but
you can, but like
It's one of
this
his-
has to be a way that it's done where like a
we
wink
bust
at
on him
least.
for it.
But like the reason that Larry King was interesting is because he could interview anybody, but he was genuinely interested in people. So he would ask them questions about their life that mattered and were interesting, and he would go to interesting places. But Bill Maher just doesn't
it's-
care about these people at all, and it's so
And
obvious.
It also goes to the pseudo or the faux journalism of his show,
well, yeah,
right? Larry King as a journalist or any interviewer will just rely. It's all the 5 basic questions:
right,
who, what, where, when, why.
right.
And he noticed something. I mean, he did ask a what question. What are your goals in life? What do you want to be when you grow up? That's a what question. Stick with that.
But
Keep
yeah, he had like
making that
0
question.
follow-ups except for to make an
And if it's
outdated
about
Elvis
fashion,
reference.
Yeah, why do you think that's my look? Go into that. But instead he has to make it like some kind of sarcastic, I'm fake
You
offended.
kids paying $70.
But she's not
for your
picking
ripped
up on all
jeans.
of that. It's a little complex for her.
Of course
So,
not. So
and
it's
the
just-
teen is just sort of along for the ride, I guess.
So
um,
I'm gonna
He
bet
seems
this goes.
quiet. I don't know what the teen is, the guy, because
Yeah.
he does not seem to be a performer or comfortable on
No,
camera.
yeah,
He's got braces. He's probably self-conscious about that.
yeah, probably.
Another year, and he's free of that, I'm sure. What, 16 and braces? Ooh, that's late. But whatever.
Yeah, I suppose. By the, yeah,
It
by the
depends,
by the
it
time
depends.
yeah, by the time I got to high school, I was done with braces. So yeah, that's probably true.
It depends on when your parents can afford it. So
That
his
is also
parents
true.
are-
That is also true.
He's not pulling in money.
Right. All right, let's continue on. I'm gonna guess this line of questioning goes nowhere.
Door
Let's see.
than it is to have actual nice clothes like I have. Nice clothes, nice.
I actually
clothes
saw
that
this
I
as a
have.
clip,
Nice
one of the
clothing.
clips.
Why is yours?
It's a style
Nice,
now.
nice clothing, Bill. I have seen that exact shirt on Amazon for like $12. Like, come on.
And he's also
man.
acting like ripped jeans are a new fad.
Exactly. Like, again, his references are to the 80s. Like, if this was 1982 or even 77 and he was interviewing a punk, oh, what's with the ripped jeans? You actually pay for that stuff? Like, yeah. But this is 2024 and he's still befuddled by people paying for ripped jeans. Like, wow.
That's 90s, I think.
Fresh
It was
material.
It was part of grunge.
I suppose maybe in the 90s when it became commodified. And, yeah. But still.
Hot Topic.
Hot Topic.
is definitely
There you go.
is aughts.
Still. It just, again, his references end in the 90s and he just
Yeah,
hasn't
yeah,
looked at
no.
anything
I mean,
since
it's
then.
when he got on TV. He just
Yeah.
stopped watching it.
I guess so.
It's a style.
Now, like I'm
Yeah.
old.
No, it's like literally my brother. He has old like pair of.
You
jeans
are
that are,
old, Bill.
12,
Yeah.
and they fit
Yeah.
me actually, but sometimes they're a little long. I have these one jeans that are like actually big rips. That I think it was his or it was my sister's, but they actually fit me pretty nice and I like to wear them to school.
So, did you wear the same kind of clothes when you started out life as a boy? I assume you're both transitioned.
Oh, here we
I
go.
assume you were a boy as a child and you were a girl. I mean, that's
What?
no.
They're just like, what the hell are you talking
This
about?
is what's getting clipped.
Yeah.
Because it touches on his
you were-
transphobia.
You actually was born.
Yeah, I was,
and you were born a girl.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right, fine. Whatever kink, whatever you're into, whatever
kink?
whatever weird
I have
stuff
no
you're
idea.
into is fine with me. Nothing weird about it.
I have no idea what you're talking about, sir.
Like,
Now
yes.
that's charisma, responding with like a catchphrase.
Right? Yes.
What you talking about, Bill?
What you talking about, Bill? Yeah.
I think she must have. Yeah, she must know other child actors' work then to do something. Maybe.
Maybe so. Maybe
I
so.
think that's conscious. Maybe.
But Jesus Christ, Bill! Like, this is where you go to make your ham-fisted point about trans.
That was
and
his
the
pivot.
kids?
He wanted to make some
Exactly.
jab at trans culture.
He just couldn't help himself to go an entire interview
Because
without doing
he
it.
does. I mean, I guess he does actually believe the bullshit that God, kids are inundated with critical theory, and they're all questioning their gender. Because the parents and kids in his school district that he lives in are progressive and talking critical theory, and maybe there's a LGBT queer alliance. But he's like, oh, it's all kids.
Yeah.
It's just a complete extrapolation, which he does on his show every day, of course. And
Of
it's fine when it's a joke and it's meant to be funny for that boomer audience. But, fuck. I mean, it's amazing that I actually kind of liked the show in the aughts during the Bush years. I wasn't a boomer. I wasn't in his audience demographic. I thought that his demographic was left of, a social democrat or left of that, left of Bush.
Yeah, but then he
And-
then he made that one.
But no, it
remark
turns out his demographic were in fact his age group all along,
or even older. I'm sure.
or became that again.
Yeah, that could be too. They just fell away.
I mean, as soon as I became an adult, that's when I basically dropped him. I was like, oh, this guy's actually full of shit,
Right?
and he actually doesn't know anything, and it's
No.
not a source of
Never has a
wisdom
point to
or
make.
good or good humor. I mean, or it's just that trope of, well, he started making jokes about me, my
That's not
demographic,
it.
as soon as millennials started getting political and politicized, he started making jokes about like, all the young people these days, nowadays, which is another game, by the way, the nowadays, and being a parent, and he stopped being the cool uncle archetype, and he just becomes a crotchety parent.
Yeah.
Just as he is here.
Or the get off my lawn, grandpa. Like,
The parent ego is in full control
Yeah.
all the time. And I think there was like his humor, or maybe let's say he was better. He never really was, because like you watch his old show
not
in the
really.
90s. You watch his old show in the 90s, and he's still like a parent ego.
Like the
But
best
there
part
was
of his
also
show.
Yeah, there was a playfulness, or like and he can ask a serious adult, question and make a
Right.
statement like an adult. Like, I think that the 9/11 hijackers weren't cowards, as Bush says, because it's part of the rhetoric to say that a terrorist is a coward.
Right.
Like, they're fighting for and giving up their lives for their beliefs.
Yeah.
That's
But
not coward.
he got
In
smacked
fact,
down.
it's their stupid bravery. It's their stupefying bravery, which is actually what's scary about it.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So he wasn't even making any kind of like. It was just a contrarian point.
Sure. But he gets smacked down one time, gets his show canceled, and from that point on, he's just
He's never serious again.
never makes an interesting point again. And I mean, I guess his guests on his show have always been the most interesting part of it, because he contributes virtually nothing to those discussions.
Yeah. I'll actually admit, it was when I would watch for the guests, but then eventually I started to notice, or at least maybe he was having Ann Coulter on too much. He would try to have this balanced panel, and I think maybe after New Atheism, where that movement is talking about like the fake balance, the fallacy of balance, the teach the controversy, let's have both sides, all those fallacies and bullshit, and just seeing how, like, oh yeah, it shows actually that he doesn't have to have these right wingers on. Why does he have them on? They're just complete bullshit. This isn't a productive
Drum up
conversation.
ratings.
It's not about getting good points and learning.
No.
It's about it's crossfire. It's everything that Jon Stewart was criticizing as like trying to be serious when you're not.
Right.
If you're just entertainment, then just have entertainers on and don't have real politicians.
Sure.
Don't have activists. I think the final episode I really seriously watched was when he had someone to represent the Occupy movement.
Sure.
It was this woman who was getting, like, I don't know if she was even part of the PR team. Her name was like Alexandria or something.
Sure.
And she was the one who was invited on TV to kind of represent Occupy for like a month. And I didn't think she was that good because she wasn't really representing the full agenda, scope of our demands and what we represented, that we were, in fact, a denial of the system. And that wasn't being communicated enough by her. And maybe I look up some clips of that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting.
In fact, maybe we skip to that and we're done with this.
All right, well, we got about 15 minutes left tonight, so.
Yeah, I know it could be. Let's see.
All right, so while you're looking for that, I'll let this roll and we'll come back to it.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Well, I thank you kids for coming over. I think you've.
By the way, can you sign these both?
Yes, I can sign the phone.
Yeah.
Sign right on the phone.
Yeah. And also, can you put your phone number in here so I can?
No, we can't. It's a little inappropriate, Mrs. Robinson.
Oh my God, dude. Oh, now he's got
So
other
hard to
kids
get
on.
Good help these days, kids. It's so hard to get good help. Anyway,
Can handle the vodka.
Paige and Amelia, how old are you?
We're both 10.
You're both 10.
Yeah.
Well, see, already,
I know. As he takes a drink,
Like, I'm telling
he
you,
essentially
it's really hard to get good help.
his filter goes from, I'll censor and say MFer. He was a bad MFer.
Uh-huh.
To referencing half kink, but then pulling it back.
So you're really kids.
Then he'll actually just say
but like just
Yeah, yeah.
technically by the age, people they like to judge by age. I guess you're kids, but you seem very mature to me. But
Ew,
we're
again.
happy to have you here because we're trying to
People
sort
like
of
to judge by age,
iron
but you
out
seem
the-
like
the
very mature
demographics
kids to me. Oh,
problem
that's
that we
disgusting.
have. I mean, the last two guests we had were Shatner and Norman Lear, so we want to get some young people. You remember Norman Lear? No, that was before your time. You still watch TV? Is TV still a thing?
Kind of. Yeah. It's not, well, like, for most kids our age, it's not that relevant. It's more like YouTube and
YouTubers, yeah.
Right. But
Yeah.
can't you watch YouTube on TV?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
That
So
doesn't
in a
count
way,
though,
it's just
Bill.
like a different TV channel.
Yeah.
No.
I'm trying to make myself feel better because I'm in TV and it is a dying medium. But I know that. It's okay. There are still plenty of people who watch TV. Is there any shows that you watch that are still on like the networks? Like I don't know what show. I mean I don't watch a lot of shows, but nothing.
I like watching Modern Family.
Modern Family.
Yeah, and Saturday Night Live.
Okay, there you go.
I like a lot of drama shows because they always have like a twist
see?
at the end.
Okay, now we're watching TV. Okay,
Yeah.
what do we have to front about TV for? We still like TV.
Yeah.
What drama shows do you like? Grey's Anatomy.
I like K-dramas because I'm Korean and
Okay, K-dramas.
yeah.
I didn't know
Oh,
there was
here
such
it
a
goes
thing.
again.
What
Makes me
channel is that on?
Korean. There's a lot of things on Viki. That's like Rakatun Viki or something like that. It's like the heart of Asian entertainment.
Say this again.
It's
What is it called?
It's Rakatun Viki. A lot of people call it Viki. It's where like
Is this like a
Oh.
channel right on the channel guide, or is this
It's
a
like a-
streaming service?
yeah, it's like a streaming
Oh,
app thing.
okay. So, and this is specifically for the Korean market?
There's also like Japanese and Chinese shows on there too.
Oh, I see. So Pan-Asian.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Pan-Asian. Now we're getting somewhere.
Yeah. Little condescending sneer.
English
It is a
language
sneer.
channel?
Why is he? Yeah. Oh God. Racist piece of shit.
Oh, Asian stuff, eh? God, just he has such thinly veiled xenophobia for everything that is not him.
They have subtitles, but they speak in like different languages.
So the Japanese ones would be in Japanese, the Korean ones would be in Korean with
Yeah, and then
subtitles.
they would have like English subtitles on the bottom.
But you were able to watch it without the subtitles? You speak Korean?
No, but I can read Korean, but I kind of don't know what they're saying.
I see. So you only speak English?
I don't think he does.
Yeah, but maybe we try to speak different languages at home.
But why do you only want to watch the Korean channel? I mean, you know, they used to call America a melting pot. Like everyone would come and we'd be in one big pot and we'd melt together. That's sort of like...
Meaning she needs to watch white shows.
Exactly, or at the very least, American-produced shows in English. Like
The melting pot would mean Bill watches some K-pop.
right, it means he would then be influenced by the other stuff in. But the way that he and so many of the progenitors of it is, everything melts into whiteness. That's what they mean by a melting pot.
That's one of the major critiques of the melting pot metaphor.
Yeah.
If you're an actual minority,
Uh-huh.
is like we're not a soup with a lot of different ingredients. We're melting into one slop.
Mm-hmm.
That's whiteness.
Which is
and if you don't
defaults
fit,
to whiteness,
and if you don't melt, like you're a, let's say, what's something that doesn't melt down in a stew? If you're a
hard chunk of potato, or
a bone,
carrot, a bone. There you go. Yeah,
you're thrown out.
That's right. Yeah, discarded at the end of the meal.
I mean, there's some other metaphors used by they say it's a melting pot, but it's burnt on the bottom. I think I've read something. I don't know if it was like a socialist track or something.
But he's just so nakedly offended that she doesn't watch predominantly American shows.
He's hurt.
Yeah.
Well, it's just another one of those kids these days. They don't watch good wholesome American entertainment like me.
Yeah, it's not good enough for you guys anymore. It's good enough for my generation, but
As
I
if
guess
he
not for
wants
yours.
kids to watch him.
Like, Bill, you don't watch American shows anymore. You don't consume American media. So, like...
Maybe.
Anyway. Did
I typed in Bill Maher and Occupy Wall Street, and I just have clips that are a minute, so we could do them.
Yeah. We can switch over. I think this is...
We've got enough,
we've hit
we've got enough context.
The high points of cringe in this interview. So
all right, here's one, and here's another. They're all probably from different weeks.
Yeah, that's fine.
During.
All right.
Let's see. No interview with Alexandria. I'll have to maybe look around to see. So I can remember. So I know she wasn't a figment of my imagination. That there's this person who is from OccupyWallStreet.org or something, and I'm like, who's this woman? I'd never seen her at the encampment. Which shouldn't make me suspicious of her. Just like she wasn't. I wish we voted for some spokesperson.
Sure. Yeah. All right. Well. Let's take a look at this one. So there's Bill Maher. Difference between the Occupy Wall Street and the Teabaggers. This came out October 12th, 2011, and I'll link it in the chat there.
My show. Wait, I'm still in charge here, and I have a question that I want to ask about this, which has to do with the Tea Party. It seems to me No, I'm not. I know you're not a Tea Party. But I want to read a quote from your book, Freedom. The personality susceptible to the dream of limitless freedom. Is a personality also prone, should the dream ever sour, to misanthropy and rage? I bring this up because it seems like the Tea Party's big gripe when they first came on the scene was the banks.
It was the bailouts. It's exactly what these Wall Street occupiers are upset about now. And it just shows how easily the Tea Party people can be steered away. Because somehow then, the right-wing corporatists got in their heads and they said, no, what you're really mad about is Obamacare. And what really burned you up is taxing the job creators. And somehow they forgot that their goal was exactly what the goal of these occupied Wall Street.
Well, not exactly
right now.
We bring
I guess that was it for that one. So, maybe not exactly what we were looking for, but...
No. The next one's 5 minutes. It's one of the monologues, so...
Yeah, okay. We'll pull that up instead then.
Now that summer is upon us, the Occupy Wall Street movement must think of a more effective form of protest than camping. To be considered a real movement, it has to start moving asses off the streets and into the voting booth.
There it is.
Yep.
Occupy's motto is, the only solution is world revolution. Okay. But what about setting our sights a little lower, like taking back Wisconsin? Now, last fall, I must admit, I too got caught up in the
I don't understand Trotskyism.
I held a sign, I shared
Look
some
how
sacred
cool he
herb
looks.
with members of a
So
drumming
cool.
How do you do, fellow kids?
But strangely enough, it turns out that having a sleepover in the park for 4 months didn't cause Wall Street to crumble. And that's not because Occupy didn't have the right message. It did. That America's wealth is increasingly in the hands of a tiny kleptocratic priesthood of finance cowboys and the politicians they buy.
Something tells me he doesn't talk about these subjects anymore. He perhaps changed his tune.
Maybe we have to watch a full episode of Real Time, but I think I did that 6-8 years ago, and I was just moved to vomit.
Yeah.
Mentally.
Protected by a free fire zone of rules they wrote themselves, feeding on the Republic from within, like a transcontinental tapeworm the size of Route 66. Sure, I'll give you that. It's just, I think it was Gandhi who said, the park? Again? Really? I mean, no offense, but we tried the whole...
That is what people said to Gandhi, though. What, this marching thing again? This hunger strike thing again? That people distracted him his whole fucking every campaign. Oh, this isn't gonna work. India can't be free. It shouldn't be free.
Yeah.
No, Britain's here to stay. You guys can't rule yourselves. You know, if we do leave, it's gonna fall apart. You gotta, it's gotta be riots. And they were right, but him and his cadre said it'll be our problem then, and that's the point.
Right. Yeah. Name any political activist like that. They
only because he name checked Gandhi, I suppose. But,
right, but I mean, you could say the same thing about MLK, how he was constantly questioned for the way he delivered his message.
Yeah, I mean, the point stands that the encampments alone weren't building socialism.
Of course not.
I mean, it was.
They didn't think it would.
Is explicitly anarchist movement. So, okay, you can say it's a failure of anarchism or that kind of radicalism. The prefigurative kind instead of the overtly political kind. And so Mar's advice, though, of course, ham-fisted as far as just vote. Obviously, it needs to go into the voting. This energy needs to go into electoral politics, but especially democratic electoral politics. At where he's partly right is that yes, Occupy did need to get actually political, and it was starting to, at least certain sections of people who were organizing there were organizing politically to do things like home defense and the death strike and so for since then, if goaded, what came out of Occupy? So there were basically dozens and dozens of new radical organizations that obviously weren't the same size and didn't have the same profile, but they do exist where before they did not, and they were more materially based as far as what their projects were, because there were lessons of like, well, we got together, but we needed a materialist project, because the camp was vibes,
Right.
and vibes attracted people.
Mm-hmm.
What you do once you have the people, and it obviously wasn't satisfying to say, well, just the fact that we're here is the victory, that we're doing direct democracy. It is a victory to teach people about anarchism and how to do things like this is what anarchism looks like, and that it can function on certain levels.
Sure.
And that, you know, the mutual aid being done, that it was a demonstration of mutual aid, and that mutual aid alone does not create a political project, but it's the basis.
Yeah.
If it kept getting support, if Occupy eventually had dues members, you know, and there
Right.
were a few voices that were advocating for that. Actually, my letdown was that they gave up really quickly. Like, they advocated for a month. They would talk about participatory democracy and Paracom. And I'm just talking about 2 guys in Albany doing this. But I'm sure there was a few others that probably in other states and cities who were like, let's form an org where we pay dues so then we can self-fund ourselves and we don't have to depend on having the right amount of donations coming in. Because as long as those donations were coming in, oh man, we were riding high and we had resources and tons of mutual aid was done, right? But the mutual aid, and this is one of the arguments about that occurred in Occupy, running out of time, but it was like a lot of mutual aid went to the homeless and to the needy, and it was not towards a political project. Mutual aid alone, you know, like helping people was not. We weren't creating an unemployed union, even though there were probably some people that probably would have read about that. But in Brazil, there are whole organizations of the unemployed, and their political project is, we want job creation from the state, and we'll block roads until we get that jobs program. But we don't do that in America. You can only unionize and strike if you're employed.
Right.
But why not do that if you're unemployed? Right? When you're unemployed, you are nothing. You're not even worth talking to. But this is also probably part of our communications as a society, where like you can't readily talk to people who are unemployed. If people are broke, they don't have a computer, they don't have an email, they don't have regular phone service. If they do, their number is always changing because their phones are always either being stolen off of them, breaking, replaced. You know, they can have a phone so they can make calls, but like they'll never be reachable.
Right. Right.
So I'm doing the yes but game, you know.
No.
Here's all the reasons we can't. But I'm just trying to get to like what could or should or possibilities.
Some actual
possibilities.
Productive avenues.
It's the reverse. I'm making suggestions to
exactly
helpless children.
Yeah. Not just lamenting how we can. Yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Definitely. Let's see. This is a pretty short clip, I believe. Oh no, it's 5 minutes.
It's his monologue.
Yeah.
I keep going with it. I went into a spiel.
Yeah, that's all right. That's all right because it was important stuff. Well, yeah, let's finish it up. Then we'll wrap up for the night.
All right. No interruptions.
Because what does taking over a park really achieve besides forcing anonymous gay sex back into the bathhouses?
Oh, John Waters, rest in peace.
Yep.
And besides, the people who recently bought Facebook stock, they need someplace to sleep now.
I didn't age well.
If you think I'm being too mean about this, go to the Occupy website. It says that their big plan this year is to have a national gathering on July 4th, and I quote, to facilitate a visioning process designed to allow all voices to be heard while allowing repeat visions to organically rise to the top. I don't know what the fuck that means.
Means they're organizing Bill, or trying to.
But on July 5th,
they're getting out of the park.
I will say that whatever was put out on July 4th didn't
Did not
manifest.
materialize. Yeah.
No. The anniversary was much bigger event, but it was not. It wasn't a rejuvenation though. It was an echo.
Sure.
Here's a thought. Instead of organizing interstate hootenannies, maybe it's time for Occupy Wall Street to actually participate in the American political process. That means...
He wasn't listening then, because the message was we reject that.
Yeah.
Doesn't work for us. It's imperialist. It's capitalist.
Sure.
I know it's a lot harder work than learning the chords to Kumbaya, but it seems to be working for the Tea Party. I mean, think of it. 3 years ago, the Tea Party was just a few hundred retired diabetics angry at blacks and gays for making them feel old. But now they have 62 seats in Congress, and before John Boehner makes any decision, he first has to go outside to the National Mall and ask the former mental patient dressed as George Washington for permission.
That's a lie, though.
And that's because the Tea
That's
Party
where Bill
is
is like,
level.
it's revisionism.
They put on a nice shirt and their best teeth.
The Tea Party wasn't real.
Yeah.
Or it certainly wasn't a movement or an org, or it didn't like. You just had these latent tendencies in the Republican Party already. They came up.
Yeah. Not to mention it was mostly astroturfed and its funding and.
Yeah, it wasn't a new movement.
And it didn't have any
simply-
staying power either.
It
so.
was an assertion of, the latent nationalism that was just covered in the 90s.
Right. It was basically
by the sensible budget, hawks.
right.
But the racism was always there. And
but once they didn't have their black president to hurl all their vitriol at them, that was the end of the movement. So
more or less.
Yeah.
Well, you could say, then it becomes the Trump movement, but that only happens in 2016.
It's a little different though too. Like
yeah. Well, you just have the percolating fear and anxiety of the right.
Yeah.
But again, like Trump didn't win the election just because he appealed to right wingers or something.
Right.
It wasn't this ascendancy. It was just that he had that cross appeal of being a rich guy.
Yeah. And an outsider who's gonna shake things up and
and
drain the swamp.
But again, he didn't win the popular vote. No.
Yeah, he didn't even.
No Tea Partier ever did. Tea Partiers only won as Republicans in Republican one-party districts.
Yeah.
So it's not like they won anything.
No.
I think they flipped Congress because they beat a bunch of centrist Democrats. Where it was like, again, do you want the Republican light or do you want the Republican?
Mm-hmm.
And the Republican just happens to be more outwardly racist. But hey, whatever, I don't care. I'm racist too.
Yeah.
Or I'm biased, but I'm not really racist.
Sure. All right. Just a couple of seconds left. Yeah.
That's so funny.
Yeah, you can tell he was writing more of his material at this time because he's really satisfied with a lot of these jokes.
Candidates, registered voters, and did all the stuff that when the left does it, it's
No, they
called
didn't.
using the methods of Saul Alinsky.
Where was this reported? Tea Partiers were doing campaigning and organizing and stuff.
Right.
I think he was referring to the billionaires who basically paid for, they funded Republican campaigns to do, and they could hire people.
Mm-hmm.
That's not movement. That's capitalism.
Yeah, right.
That's having money to hire people.
Yep. It's bourgeois democracy.
Democratic congressman who Obama can point to and say, I'd love to renew your Bush.
Far left Democratic congressman.
Uh-huh.
I guess he means AOC eventually, but then he will hate the AOC. So.
Yep.
Because then when the squad come up, then he'll love them, right? They'll be the left Tea Party.
Right.
But then, no, they have to compromise. They have to play ball and vote for Pelosi and vote for for war spending, and
Right. Yeah.
they
Just
weren't
be
the left.
you know, it's the melting pot into the Democratic Party.
It's the
So.
melting, right? The melting pot. Right? Why can't we be like the right?
Yeah.
It's
Right.
like the right was always like that.
Yes.
They just were more honest, I guess, about what they wanted. They weren't like the extreme. They're extreme. They're against this and that. I don't know. I guess it's in the wash nowadays. But
Yeah.
you know, you have because now it's like, oh, the Republican Party now are all Trump. It's all Trump now. You know, you just have a few people,
Trump
the
show.
old guard, who aren't,
Right.
but they still have to go along with it. And it's like, why can't that be like with the left? Because that's not how capitalist democracy
No.
works.
No.
Because the real left is anti-capitalist at
Right.
least,
We don't want to play this game anymore.
and or anti-corporate even,
Yeah.
which was the acceptable thing in the 90s and aughts.
Right.
And that's what made you far left.
Right.
But you couldn't be anti-corporate because that is our economic system,
Right.
corporatism. You cannot.
That's how people get elected.
To be against that is to make you revolutionary.
Right.
And if you're going to be revolutionary, then you're independent by default. And that's why it's like, well, you got to be anti-capitalist, but you got to be all Democrat, and you got to be, be entryist about it, because then that's how we participate.
Right.
I still unconvinced, and more are convinced of this. I suppose, like the Green Party convention, helps me. Sometimes I wish it inspired me more, but maybe because it was virtual. That it's like I'm not seeing the hundreds and hundreds of people who are involved.
Right.
And then to know that 30% of them are new.
Right.
That's always helpful too. But since you don't see
absolutely.
it, but I think the numbers, it's there. That I look at those who registered other green, and it went up in the last cycle. Now I'm doing calling, and I'm not able to reach all of them, and it's not like all of them are enthusiastic voters or independents or leftists. So there's some disappointment there, but it's interesting that they would even register in the first place. Some have unregistered since, but because people are a little waffly. But I can't blame them when they're not reached.
Yeah.
Have a good night, Zach.
You as well, Dan. Thank you. There's a lot of fun. I appreciate it. As always,
Always.
the stuff you come with, and
I'm energized for the rest of the week, I guess.
all right, sounds good. Well, see you next week, and yeah, looking forward to what you bring.
And good night.
Have a good one. And that's going to do it for the stream too. I will see you all on Sunday. Probably is the next time we'll stream again, unless we have an impromptu one again. But otherwise, see you Sunday for more Tears of the Kingdom. Have a good night.